Epic Universe is the brand new multi-billion-dollar theme park at the Universal Orlando Resort. It's the first major theme park to open in the US in a quarter of a century. And if you remember, Universal opened the last one in 1999 with Islands of Adventure. But Epic Universe is the largest investment that Comcast NBC Universal has ever made in the theme park business, with a total price tag of $7.7 billion. The project first began back in 2016 and took a total of 6 years to physically construct, creating over 17,000 new jobs. It is the most technologically advanced thing that Universal has ever done. There are 50 total experiences inside, taking the form of rides, character interactions, restaurants, shops, shows, and more. The general premise with Epic Universe is that you are leaving your world behind, entering through portals into these brand new immersive environments like Celestial Park, How to Train Your Dragon, the Isle of Berk, Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic. And let me tell you, it is unlike anything you have ever experienced before. I first had the opportunity to visit Epic Universe during their team member previews in April 2025. I was there all throughout technical rehearsals and even attended their grand opening day on May 22nd. In this review, I'll be covering the Epic Universe experience from start to finish. I'll discuss the various rides, shows, restaurants, general attractions, and hopefully give some tips along the way so that if you're planning your visit to Epic Universe, you can know what to expect. And before we jump in, I want to first remind you all to please subscribe to the channel for more theme park and roller coaster reviews from places all across the world. If this is your first time watching the channel, we already have a bunch of Epic Universe videos already posted, including our initial reactions to the park and their various attractions. And I'm sure there will be many more in the future. So let's jump on in. First things first, Epic Universe is situated just a few miles south of the current Universal Orlando Resort on a plot of land that Universal specifically acquired for theme park expansion. It's about a 10-minute drive from Islands of Adventure in Universal Studios Florida and about an equal distance to SeaWorld Orlando. Adjacent to the theme park are 3 hotels, Universal's Stella Nova and Terra Luna resorts, and of course the Helios Grand Hotel, which is physically attached to the back of Epic Universe. Stella Nova and Terra Luna each have 750 rooms, and Helios has an additional 500. Once you're through the toll plaza and have parked your car, you're going to begin your long walk up to the front entrance. Unfortunately, no tram service or moving walkways here, but all those flowers are a wonderful introduction to what's to come, and that's when the music kicks in. Celestial Park is supported by over 40 hours of musical content, 14 of which is completely original, and from the second you get out of your car, you hear it's very orchestral, grand, even cosmic. It's one of my favorite soundtracks I've heard for any theme park. And this is when you get your first look at the Kronos Tower. This is the icon of Epic Universe, that first portal that you have to pass under, but first you're going to have to go through metal detection and get your ticket scanned. Universal uses facial recognition for this park, so if you have a season pass, you don't even need to pull out your ticket. They just scan your face, you're good to go. If this is your first time scanning in though, they will link your face with your ticket so you won't need to scan again. It's really quite a brilliant system that we saw first roll out at the other Universal parks, and now it seems to be the norm. I also found it interesting that from this front plaza, you won't find any ticket booths like at most parks. Everything's digital these days, so the park was built with the assumption that everyone already has pre-bought their ticket. But once you're through, man, what a view of the Kronos. It is even more stunning in person than I could have imagined. I love the rotating rings at the top and all the different medallions in the middle representing each of the portals. And right below the logo is the park's tagline. Beyond this gate, find gardens green and epic worlds to fill your dreams. It is the perfect introduction to Epic Universe, though I'll admit, it was a little smaller than I expected upon first glance. I'd seen so many renderings of it online. I thought it would be huge, but it's actually a pretty adequate size. And because of the way Epic Universe is laid out, you can see the Kronos Tower from pretty much anywhere in Celestial Park. Speaking of which, that is the first land that you'll be greeted with. It's based off of the World's Fair designs from the 1930s, really balances old with new. Mark Woodbury, the CEO of Universal Destinations and Experiences, said, "We are putting the park back in theme park," and Celestial Park absolutely lives up to that phrase. There are so many flowers and gardens throughout this land, it is very pristine. Genuinely a beautiful land. It's a calming atmosphere. I don't have the urge to rush or run through this land. No, I'm going to stroll. It might sound cliche to say, but you genuinely don't have to ride anything to just enjoy this atmosphere. I heard someone describe it by saying that they wish that this is what the central hub of Epcot felt like. And I think that's very valid. The color palette that was selected is amazing. There are so many seating areas around the fountains, beautiful views everywhere you look. I love all the waterways. Celestial Park is graded so that at the front of the land you start slightly elevated and then drop further back into the land. So from this front plaza called Luna Overlook, you can see everything. The goddess Luna, who of course represents the moon, is your entry icon into Epic Universe, and she faces the god Apollo at the far end, who's shooting his arrow all the way to the front. It is genuinely so beautiful. I was so blown away by Celestial Park. The only real downside to this land is a bit of a lack of shade. A lot of these trees are young and they will grow, but I still don't think that changes the fact that a lot of these pathways feel very open. They're so wide and spacious to accommodate for the mass amount of people that they know will eventually pass through these gates. Let's talk about each of the individual aspects of Celestial Park before we dive into each of the portals. From Luna Overlook, on either side, you'll have your main gift shops. The one on the left in particular showcases the portals from each land. Merchandise tends to be pretty generic to each brand, while not necessarily referencing the various rides and attractions, and I hope that this improves over time. It kind of blows my mind that you don't find any merch for Stardust Racers or even Celestial Park, and I feel like t-shirts for that would just sell so well. Attached to the gift shop on the left-hand side is a chocolate shop with an airship theme. That features the original character, Captain Cacao, which of course he has plenty of merchandise, so that's great. On the right-hand side is a Christmas store, which I thought was frankly an interesting take, not what I initially expected. Next door is one of the two Starbucks in Epic Universe. The other is further back in Celestial Park. And just before you get to the How to Train Your Dragon portal, there's a big building on the right-hand side that'll house two different restaurants, supposedly one Italian and one Mexican. The exterior is already done. It is not open yet at the moment. However, Universal has confirmed they'll open up in 2026, which makes a lot of sense, and I can't wait to check them out. Directly ahead is our first open restaurant, the Atlantic. This is one of two sit-down restaurants in Epic Universe, and also happens to be the most expensive. It's a seafood restaurant. The front entrance opens up with this beautiful bar, and then downstairs, seating right alongside the waterfront with these huge glass windows. If you look directly ahead, you'll notice all these different fish rotating above you. This is one of the few locations in Epic Universe that I haven't had the opportunity to try yet, but I've heard it was very good. Every single restaurant in Epic Universe feels like an attraction in of itself. And specifically within Celestial Park, all of the restaurants were very carefully thought out. The Atlantic represents water. Oaken Star Tavern, up ahead, represents land. Pizza Moon, of course, the moon. Blue Dragon, sky. Meteor Astropub, space. And there are so many cosmic theming elements inside, all these little details. You're going to want to walk in every single one of them to at least check them all out. So we'll start first off with Pizza Moon because this is just past the Super Nintendo portal on the left-hand side. It's based off of the famous 1902 film, A Trip to the Moon. You'll probably recognize it by this rocket that shoots up to the moon and then lands in his eye. That was fully replicated here, but with a slice of pizza. It's very whimsical. The interior reminds me almost of like a classic dark ride. If you've ever visited a Luna Park, either the one in New York or either one down in Australia, it kind of follows the same vibe with this very distinct stylization. Plenty of rotating or rocking theming elements. It absolutely is a vibe. And the food is really good too. Some of their pizza flavorings are pretty unconventional. We tried a Nana Rosa pizza that was extremely flavorful. There's a white sauce mushroom truffle pizza that was very good. And one of the pizzas we tried was quite literally purple. I'm convinced you can't go wrong with anything here. What I recommend doing is getting one pizza per two people. They're bigger than you'd expect. We actually saw like quite a lot of waste because a lot of people weren't finishing them because they didn't expect them to be so large. I found that 2 pizzas per 4 people is perfect. As you exit, take some time to check out the posters on the outside of the building. There's some pretty clever references. Next door to Pizza Moon is the main gift shop for Super Nintendo World. That land was essentially copy and pasted from its original location in Japan. And while there is a gift shop inside, it just wasn't enough, and they found a perfect blend between Super Nintendo World and Celestial Park to create this vibe. One of the most beautiful gift shops in the entire park. Directly across from this gift shop in Pizza Moon is our first attraction that we're going to discuss, and that is Constellation Carousel. This is the most expensive carousel ever built with an extremely unique ride system. Typically, you just rotate around in a circle, but not here. There's multiple different platforms that will take you up and down and around through this space in what feels like a choreographed dance. From what I understand, there's 4 different song settings, so even the carousel is rewritable. It is mesmerizing to look at and even more fun to experience. It's a very tame attraction. Quite literally, anyone could experience it. And they just went above and beyond with this experience. Each animal represents a different constellation, and they all have individual lights embedded inside, which means when the sun goes down, Constellation Carousel comes to life. It might sound silly, but this is one of your must-do night rides that you have to experience. It is pure magic, and the song settings are also different at night too. It's a phenomenal icon for Celestial Park and one of only 2 rides in the land. I hope that changes one day. I would love to see Celestial Park get another small flat ride as long as it is stylized and feels classy enough. The one I keep seeing suggested is a wave swinger, and I feel like that would be a beautiful addition to Celestial Park. And at the moment, Celestial Park has been designed with expansion space in mind, so that definitely could be a possibility in the future. On the other side of Constellation Carousel is another one of the attractions here in Epic Universe. This one not a ride, it is a splash pad called Astronomica. It acts as the compass rose within Celestial Park with all these indicators pointing you to the different lands. So you always know where to go. This is great for the kids, and like Constellation Carousel, it really comes to life at night. The next restaurant within Celestial Park is the Oaken Star Tavern. This is a barbecue joint with a brilliant ambiance. One of my favorite places to eat here. I recommend the pulled pork and the brisket, but the mac and cheese and biscuits are also super good. They also have desserts like banana pudding, which we loved. And it's also worth mentioning that each of the quick service restaurants, including Pizza Moon, any location that doesn't have a waiter, has the exact same setup where you just find a table, scan a QR code on your phone, it'll bring up the Universal app, order what you want, you'll punch in your table number, and then they'll bring you your food. It's extremely easy. As you exit Oaken Star Tavern, to the left is the portal for Dark Universe. We'll get to that a little later. Directly ahead, there's a small stage on the right-hand side where they'll occasionally have live performers. Celeste Tiki is a cute little tiki bar stand. They have alcoholic drinks such as pina coladas and also mocktails like strawberry daiquiris. Next door is also the other Starbucks and their ice cream shop, Frosty Moon. I love the desserts here, a perfect sweet treat to have as you enjoy the fountains. This is the centerpiece of Celestial Park with some staggered seating that you can just lay out and relax. They put on occasional shows in sync with music in the style of like the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and it's a beautiful complement to the Helios as the backdrop to Epic Universe. I did have the opportunity to stay at this hotel. It was on the expensive side, as you probably would expect. It absolutely gives off that grand vibe, but that being said, it wasn't as themed as I was expecting. At the end of the day, it's still a modern hotel, one that isn't immersive, but instead lightly stylized. And there's very few things that disappointed me in Epic Universe, but unfortunately, Helios was one of them. I feel like the concept art made it seem a lot more elegant than it currently is. Frankly, it's a little boxy and not as pretty as I expected, but still a nice hotel. The big downside here is that this technically does not have the status of a deluxe resort hotel like some of Universal's other properties like Portofino that comes with these amazing benefits such as Express included with your stay. And Helios instead is treated like one of their budget hotels but disguised as a deluxe hotel. So you get the really expensive price tag and the only real benefit is convenience. That is the big selling point for staying at Helios, that you have your own separate entrance into the park. You can get a room that overlooks the resort, which is epic. That is the best part of Helios, but the secret is, if you want that view, you don't have to stay here. Anyone can just walk into Helios from Epic Universe. If you get a reservation for Bar Helios at the very top, you can enjoy that view while sipping on a drink. You don't have to pay $700 for a room. So in the future, I think that's what I'm more likely to do again as opposed to stay here. I think objectively, Terra Luna or Stella Nova are a better bang for your buck. Now, right up against Helios is the second sit-down restaurant in Epic Universe, that is Blue Dragon. It has a brilliant nighttime atmosphere as they serve Pan-Asian dishes. Much of their menu was brought over from the head chef of Universal Beijing, so a lot of it is very authentic. That being said, I got the orange chicken. But there's a lot of stuff on this menu that I look forward to trying one day. Now on the right side of Celestial Park, closest to Helios, that is the portal entry for Ministry of Magic. I'll absolutely get to that in a bit, but directly in front of it is our last big restaurant of Celestial Park. This is Meteor Astropub. Another one of my favorite places to eat within Epic Universe. Meteor Astropub serves a lot of bar-style food. I think they have the best burgers in the park. I also really enjoyed their chicken and waffles and tomato soup with grilled cheese. And if you're a soda drinker, I love that every restaurant in Epic Universe has a Coke Freestyle machine. And depending on which land you're in, you might notice a custom flavor created specifically for Epic Universe. You can't get it anywhere else. And finally, our last attraction within Celestial Park is the big signature roller coaster here, Stardust Racers. This is a Mock Rides racing coaster with 2 separate tracks featuring tons of airtime moments and exciting crossovers. It is a brilliant ride, one of the best attractions in the world in my opinion. There's already a full separate detailed review of Stardust Racers on this channel. Please go check it out if you want to hear extensive thoughts about that ride. But that essentially completes the Celestial Park loop. I love how many pathways there are. Accessibility is extremely convenient. The land is beautiful during the day and even more stunning at night. Celestial Park was designed with lights that will move in sync with each other. I've never seen coordinated lights on this scale before. The best view is definitely from Helios because then you can look out and see everything. When you're standing in Celestial Park, it's hard to get a good grasp of just how uniform everything is. It is amazing. You can witness all this during their Cosmos Fountain Show. I love seeing the fountains dance with music from How to Train Your Dragon, The Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Dark Universe, and Super Nintendo World. In my opinion though, the show just needs a little bit more. I would love to see either fireworks go alongside with it, or even projection mapping on Helios. But regardless, it creates a very satisfying conclusion to your epic day. So let's dive into each of the 4 portals, starting first with the Isle of Berk. For this portal, you're passing underneath a mountainside. You can see a little icon of Toothless gliding across the sky. And from out the other side, you have the Welcome to Berk opening crawl that can be seen from the movies and just perfectly blocks your view so that you have to walk around it and then boom, there's your reveal of the land. It is so magnificent. You're greeted with 40-foot tall statues on either side, each one with fire in its mouth. Water all around you, and its centerpiece, this massive pointed mountainside. That is the Mead Hall, one of the restaurants here in the park. It is a crazy reveal. That is one thing that they do extremely well here at Epic Universe, is the true reveal once you enter through these portals. You might get little glimpses here and there of certain aspects within the lands, but for the most part, they do a good job of hiding everything. This land is huge. There is a lot to explore. As a whole, it makes a figure 8 shape, so walking around is very easy. My personal favorite layout of any of the 4 lands. And as with everything else within Epic Universe, the color palette is brilliant. As a fan of the movies, I was blown away at just how perfectly they were able to capture the feeling that you get from watching those films. They are blasting that iconic How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack. And there are so many animatronics, just right off of the main pathways. You don't have to wait in line to see any of these. There's an ice dragon, baby gronkles, dragon tails dangling from their individual homes, babies fighting over a fish, the sheep from Berk, just right there. It feels like a love letter to the franchise, and even if you haven't seen the movies, I think you're still going to be blown away by this land. They had to get so creative with this space. One of the rides here is a water ride, and so, naturally, they wanted to have a dryer outside the entrance. They put a Gronkle on top of it. The benches, the lamps are dragons. I'm convinced they thought of everything. The Isle of Berk is, in my opinion, the most complete land within Epic Universe. On the left-hand side, you'll see Hiccup's Wing Gliders, an Intamin family launch coaster, gliding over the water, ducking under a bridge, and popping out the other side. Like Stardust Racers, there is already a full separate review of this attraction already up on Coaster Studios. Please go check it out. This is a great attraction that you won't want to miss when at Epic Universe. Also on the left-hand side is Viking Training Camp, a very interactive play area for kids. Fits so well within everything. As a child, I would have loved playing on all this stuff, and as an adult, I still love playing on all this stuff. Next door is a food stand called Grog and Gruel. They have arguably the most famous food item within Epic Universe, the mac and cheese cones. I don't know what drugs the chefs were on when they came up with this item, but it is like the best thing my taste buds have ever had. It's this delicious mac and cheese essentially wrapped in garlic bread with various toppings, either goldfish or my personal favorite, pulled pork. It is to die for. If you can only try a couple things in Epic Universe, this is one you gotta add to your list. In fact, it became so popular that they had to start selling them at the other restaurant on the other side of Isle of Berk, Spitfire Grill, because Grog and Gruel could not handle the lines. It is worth every penny. And just next door to Grog and Gruel is one of our big attractions here in Isle of Berk. Dragon Race's Rally is a dueling pair of Gerstlauer Skyflies. The idea here is that Snotlout and Astrid are teaching you to fly on this Viking-made contraption, and it is so magnificent to see cycle. This was a brilliant addition to Epic Universe. Unfortunately, the ride cycle is just too short. There's only a few passes around that the whole idea here is that you can, do flips, right? Once you get going, the cycle is over. And I understand that it's because this is a lower capacity attraction, and having two does help. But in my opinion, it kind of defeats the purpose of the ride because these wing gliders are also kind of difficult to flip. I've done this on more than one occasion and been completely unsuccessful in rotating, and I've had a lot of success with other Gerstlauer Skyflies. So in my opinion, that kind of makes this an unsatisfying experience, despite the brilliant presentation. As you continue down the pathway, to the left is Hiccup's Wing Gliders, and directly next to it is the entrance to the meat hall. This is taken straight out of the films. I was blown away by this location. If you're traveling in a group, you can get a family platter for $50 that's just a plate of meat. So you can share chicken, sausage, and salmon, and that seems like that could actually end up being a pretty good deal. I really love the atmosphere within this restaurant. Frankly, I think I like the vibe more than I actually like the food, but that's just my own personal preference. Just outside is a well-themed candy shop and this very intricate fountain that, frankly, if it's hot out, you could just dunk your whole head in if you wanted. You might also notice a sleeping Gronkle in Gobber's workshop off to the side. Occasionally, you might actually see Gobber himself there. There are many walk-around characters within the Isle of Berk. Most often, I've seen Rough Nut and Tough Nut causing trouble. They are so awesome. Very popular characters here within the park. You could also find Astrid. She's great. And if you get lucky, you might notice Toothless's kids walking around in animatronic form. I unfortunately have not been so lucky. I've never actually gotten the chance to see them in person, but from the videos online I've seen, they are amazing. What an incredible use of technology. We've never seen that adapted for a theme park before, and it is just perfection. Fire Drill is up next. This is a splash battle where you have to hit the targets, and if you hit the wrong one, they shoot water back at you and you accumulate points, and the losing team will get soaked. Therefore, it's luck of the draw on whether you'll get a little damp or just absolutely wrecked. It is worth noting, though, that there is a winter and a summer mode. So if you experience this in the summer and it's hot out, be prepared for it to potentially be as wet as Popeyes or Dudley Doos. But regardless, this is a very clever attraction. I love how each of the targets are set up to look like the Vikings are practicing their aim. And with its position lower than the rest of the rides here in Epic Universe, I like that you can look down on your family and friends participating. Now, there's one more attraction here within Isle of Berk that's very important to discuss, and that is the Untrainable Dragon. This is one of two shows in Epic Universe, and this is a must-see. You can find showtimes every 45 minutes. They typically cut off entry about 15 minutes before showtime. That theater is huge. Its capacity is 1,000 people, and for a good reason. This is a popular show. It features effects that I have never seen done before, including Toothless physically flying out over the audience. It is pure magic, and that moment alone makes this show a must-do. But I love the energy that the cast brings to their performance. There's some great songs, perfect usage of screens and physical sets. One of my favorite things in the park, period. If I had any criticisms, it's not to do with the show itself. It's just that the Untrainable Dragon show building is kind of hard to miss here within the land. I hope that the trees grow to one day cover it up. And finally, as you're on your way out of Isle of Berk, you're going to pass a very popular character interaction, and that is where you can physically meet Hiccup and Toothless. The fact that you can actually interact with Toothless, who's right there in front of you, and he is so realistic, is unbelievably cool. And clearly everyone else thinks so too, because this gets one of the longest lines in the park. Be prepared to wait. I'm convinced the secret to how you do this is if you have early entry into the park, start in Isle of Berk, the meet and greet opens half hour before the park opens, so if you're a hotel guest, rope drop the meet and greet, and then you won't have to wait. That's the only reason why I have not done this, because it is hard for me to justify waiting an hour for that experience. But I at least love that regardless of if you wait in line, you can still get a good view of it. In conclusion, Isle of Berk is hands down one of the best parts of Epic Universe. So much time and passion and love was put into this land, and that is very clear. I know there were some people who were skeptical upon the initial announcement that they were doing a whole land from this film franchise, and I'm so glad they did. It absolutely deserved this. Just having one ride based off of it wouldn't have been enough. You know, previously I had done the indoor themed land at Motion Gate in Dubai, and that's a beautiful space. It's a lot smaller, but I feel like this really shows what you could do with this property. And it's magnificent. The only thing that it's really missing is a dark ride. I'm skeptical that they'll expand this space because of the lands here in Epic Universe, it definitely needs it the least. But if they ever were to one day, a true How to Train Your Dragon dark ride would be freaking awesome. So let's move on to Super Nintendo World, the land that might end up being the most popular here in the entire park. I was super fortunate to experience this land when it debuted in Hollywood in 2023, though that version is a lot smaller, only one ride as opposed to 3. And then just last year, I got to experience the original one in Japan. So of all the lands in Epic Universe, this was the one I was least excited for because I had already done Yoshi, I'd already done Mario Kart. The only one that was new for me was Minecart Madness in all of Donkey Kong Country. I'll get to that in a second. But the big difference that separates this from the other two lands is that from the portal entrance, you actually go up a set of escalators so that you start on the second level. And that's because with the original design of Japan, you start on level 2. So be prepared to go up and down some stairs. There are a lot of them here. If you are one of those people that needs something that is ADA accessible though, they do have some elevators that you can take to get down to the ground floor. But I just love this reveal coming out of Peach's castle. I genuinely am not sure what is the best reveal here in Epic Universe, but this might be it. It's freaking cool. There's so much kinetic energy in this land. Animatronics everywhere you look, and they never stop moving. They run all night. It is crazy impressive, and the land is so colorful. It truly feels like you were just pulled straight into the video game, and it's very common that you'll see some of the characters out walking around. I've seen both Mario and Luigi, Princess Peach, even Toad. Toad is a very popular one. They all get pretty long lines, and I don't blame them. If there is a downside to this land, unfortunately this is one of the sections that really suffers from a lack of shade. I would actually argue that this feels like the hottest land because it lacks airflow, because you have walls on all sides. Like, as much as I love Yoshi, it being a slow-moving Omni-mover, you're just stuck out in the sun for most of it, which is a bummer because the visuals are amazing. You get so close to some of those animatronics. The indoor scene is probably the best part because you get to get away from the sun, and there's so many amazing figures there. Just about anyone could enjoy this attraction. The entrance to Yoshi is down on the bottom level, but you will have to go up a set of stairs to access the loading platform. The entrance to Mario, however, is the opposite. You start on level 2 and then go down a set of stairs to access that loading platform. But this is a stunning queue. You enter through Bowser's castle, go right up against this amazing figure of Bowser through his library. So many details and great Easter eggs for the games. The ride, however, is a little polarizing because it uses augmented reality to blend the practical effects with the video game characters. And for that reason, I say maybe this ride isn't for everyone. And I think the reality is that sometimes it is hard to appreciate the physical sets when you have the distractions of the augmented reality in front of you. I actually suggest at some point taking off your AR goggles, like if you want to just see what is physically there, because I think that is the coolest part about it. Though I will shout out the Rainbow Road section for just being completely mind-blowing with the AR, and I don't know how they did that. The ride, I think, also has a learning curve because in a way, it's like a shooting dark ride where you're racking up points. It's an interactive experience. And so the more you do it, the more you'll understand what's really going on. But regardless of the complexity, this is still one of the longest lines in Epic Universe. It's like this, Donkey Kong, and Battle at the Ministry. Everyone wants to do those, especially people come here first. Super Nintendo World is open for early entry, so these lines get long fast. If you don't come here for early entry, you're actually better off hopping in line later in the day. In addition to the 2 rides here in Super Nintendo World, there's also a lot of interactivity with the mini games. If you purchase a power-up band, then you can participate in these and use the Universal app to rack up points and keep track of your score. If you have that power-up band, it makes this land way more of a time commitment. There's like 5 challenges and they're all pretty well made, but unfortunately, if you don't have that power-up band, you can't participate in a lot of what they have to offer. So that is just something to keep in mind. From a food perspective, the main restaurant here is Toadstool Cafe. They have some really fun, whimsical food items. I really like the Bowser spaghetti or the Luigi chicken sandwich. The vibe is also quite nice, where you have these fake windows with these toads out walking around, and they respond to different weather conditions. So there might be some points where it gets really stormy in there. It's really cool. There's also a snack stand called Yoshi's Snack Island, and this might be the hidden gem food location of Epic Universe. They serve these shell calzones, which are absolutely delicious, and they have this green apple smoothie, which is like drinking a Jolly Rancher. It is super sweet and delicious. Now, Super Nintendo World is the only portal that has kind of a portal within a portal. On the far right side of land, you'll enter part 2 of Super Nintendo World, known as Donkey Kong Country. It is a total vibe here, though it is on the smaller side. There's only one ride, one mini game, a gift shop, and snack stand. It's nice for what it is, but it definitely feels like it needs another ride. I'd love to see like maybe a pair of dueling frog hoppers that look like trees. You could put them on the right side and that'd be like another like kids attraction. I feel like that'd look really good. Minecart Madness is the main reason why you would enter Donkey Kong Country. It's a very unique custom boom arm ride system to allow riders to jump the tracks. And like Hiccup's Wing Gliders and Stardust Racers, there is also a full separate review of this ride up on the channel. But while you're in this land, I highly recommend getting the Banana Pineapple Ice Cream Float because it is freaking awesome. It's a little expensive at $20, but you get to keep the mug, so it does kind of end up being worth it. Again, share with some friends. It's like the equivalent of a Dole Whip, but it's like a banana pineapple twist. It is so good. There's always a long line for this one, and for a good reason. So in conclusion, before we move on to another portal, Super Nintendo World as a whole is a lot of fun. I love how much energy there is in this space. Aside from the Donkey Kong frog hoppers that I'd love to see happen, it would be great to have another ride here because this land is so popular. And frankly, it's kind of cramped. It's rumors that there might be an addition of a Luigi's Mansion Dark Ride to this land, which I think would be a very nice addition. I'd be very curious to see what kind of ride system they would use. Hopefully it'd be less like Villain Con and more like a traditional shooting dark ride, but I think people would eat that up. So let's move on into one of my favorites, Dark Universe. This is a portal themed around Universal's classic monsters. You know, horror is in Universal's DNA, going all the way back to those old black and white films like Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's about time that we have a full land themed after them. And you can tell that the creative forces here really pushed for this because it's unlike anything we've ever really seen before. So inherently, it was a risk. That being said, the response to this land has been extremely positive, and so I think that we will actually be seeing some expansion to this land because at the moment, this is objectively the smallest portal. It feels like they were given the least amount of space to work with, and in some ways, it feels a little budget cut. But I'm still really glad it exists. I think the strongest parts about it are up front. So you have this jaw-dropping portal. This is my favorite portal in the whole park. This electrical tower that you'll walk under. You'll turn to the right past this really atmospheric graveyard. They have all this mist to kind of create a fog effect up front. And then you turn a corner and there's your reveal of Frankenstein's Manor in the village of Darkmoor. It is fantastic. That manor is so impressive. And I am continually blown away at how the portal entry completely hides it. For that reveal, they have this rock wall that you have to like turn around to get that view. It's just so well thought out. Those village buildings are so ominous and atmospheric. We witnessed a violinist playing on one of the balconies. It's very common to see the Invisible Man out walking around. He's a fan favorite character because he's like kind of mean, so like he's a great person to like heckle with. And then of course everyone loves Igor. Igor is Victoria Frankenstein's assistant. He's an actual character in the Monsters Unchained ride, and I love that you can actually interact with him on the pathways. He is awesome. So we'll kind of break this land down section by section. So first things first, on the left-hand side is a very cool experience where you can actually get your face painted to look like a monster. I think it's definitely targeted towards kids, but technically speaking, anyone can do it. Directly next door is a well-themed Dark Universe gift shop. So many Easter eggs in there, including all these different tools on the walls used for torture. You can see a coffin and memorial for what I can only assume is Dr. Henry Frankenstein. And then across the way is Das Steakhouse. This is the main restaurant in Dark Universe, and the gimmick here is that you are the meal. And the employees really lean into it. They mess with you and it's awesome. The food is pretty good, though I will recommend to maybe consider staying away from the black bun sandwiches. It has some, I after effects that were surprising, to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually stop offering these. And then, of course, the star attraction of Dark Universe up ahead, Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. I'm just in complete awe over the design of this manor. Like, this is our Cinderella castle. It is so gothic and it's just perfect. It was actually originally designed after a famous building in Belgium that is no longer around. And they just created something so iconic. And the queue is very impressive. Even if you're not planning on riding the ride, you should check this out. It's got a very dark and foreboding atmosphere. It lives up to the hype that's been set by that exterior. When you first walk in, you have this grand stairwell up ahead leading up to a picture of Dr. Henry Frankenstein and Victoria on the other side. You'll enter a room showing all this found footage of how they discovered each of the monsters. It gives Blair Witch vibes. They're also running tests on bats like they're trying to harness their energy, so you have these huge electrical coils all around you. You have an epic figure of Frankenstein's monster like doing a scan on its body, a beautiful fireplace living room. It is just so well thought out. And then you get to the pre-shows. Some of my favorite pre-shows in the entire world. First, you enter the library where you're introduced to Igor, who has some of the most iconic dialogue that has ever been written for a theme park attraction. It instantly became quotable. He explains that he'll be taking you down into the catacombs on this navigation unit, which is the ride vehicle. This attraction uses a Kuka arm ride system in the same style as Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. This vehicle, however, isn't as boxy, so you feel more exposed. The whole point of that on Forbidden Journey is so that you stare straight ahead. Here, you can look all around you. The loading zone is also completely different with a turntable. It's really creative. From Igor's pre-show, you'll meet Victoria Frankenstein in animatronic form, and she introduces you to Frankenstein's monster. This is like an 8 to 10 foot tall figure that just steps out in front of you, and it is unbelievable. Totally catches you off guard, so visually impressive. Every animatronic that has been used for this attraction is one of the best in the world. Their movements are incredibly fluid and realistic. Victoria explains the premise of the experiment, how she's trying to control all of the monsters, and there's only one left that she needs, and that is Dracula. He's being rather difficult, and that is the main antagonist of the attraction. You'll enter the next room where you'll put all your loose articles into a locker. Every locker here in Epic Universe is free, and they all are full size, so they can fit your backpacks. You won't need to pay for a locker anywhere in the park, which is much appreciated. The ride itself is phenomenal. They thought of everything. The beginning of this ride alone is one of the best sequences on any dark ride, and everything is practical. Now, in the second half, we definitely get a little screen heavy, but there are still tons of animated figures, and most of them you only see them for a quick second. Monsters Unchained has 7-second intervals between ride vehicles, which is the exact same as Forbidden Journey. So that shows you that each scene has to do what it's going to do, and then it has to immediately reset for the next vehicle. They have 49 ride vehicles for this attraction, but they can only run a max of 47 at a time. During my visits, it was normal for them to run around 30, and that felt like a lot of vehicles on the track, so I don't know where they could fit another 17 more, but the end result is a very high capacity attraction. While some rides like Donkey Kong or Mario Kart will have 70+ minute waits, Monsters will be on like 20. And it's not because it isn't popular. It is. They just absolutely kill it with throughput. Now, the ride is not perfect. In my opinion, the ending is kind of abrupt. There's also a few spots where you see some black curtains, and it's just kind of noticeable. I have talked to some people who said that they were actually disappointed by this ride, and I think it really came down to the advertising. Universal said this was their scariest ride ever, and I don't really think it's scary. Like, this is not Halloween Horror Nights, the ride. It is story-driven, the monsters are really cool, but it's not jump scares. I'm sure they did that to appeal to a wider audience, so like kids wouldn't be too afraid to get on this. And that's valid. I know some people were also a little worried about getting motion sick on this because Forbidden Journey can be a little nauseating with those dome screens. You won't find any of those here on Monsters Unchained. I know people who gotten sick on that ride, but were completely fine here. So we'll continue around the land. All the way in the back is the Burning Blade. This is one of those iconic structures used in all the advertising for the land where you have that windmill that bursts into flames. That happens every 15 minutes, and you know it's about to happen when you hear the bell in the main village start to ring. So that'll give you time to walk up to the Burning Blade, get your phone ready to capture it on video, and then boom, there it goes. It's really, really cool. I'll admit, though, the inside is a little underwhelming. It's kind of small. It's essentially just like a plussed bar. The vibe is cool. It has a lot of mood lighting. I did not try any of the drinks there, but I did order their baked potato and also these mac and cheese bites, both of which were very good. And finally, that brings us to our last attraction, and that is Curse of the Werewolf. This is the final roller coaster in Epic Universe. There's also a separate review up on the channel already. It's easily the weakest of the roller coasters here in the park, and frankly, the biggest downside is that it's just extremely unpleasant to look at. Like, the front half of Dark Universe is so beautiful. Frankenstein's Manor is incredible, and then you look to the left, and it's this ugly roller coaster. It almost like takes you out of it. I wish there was something they could do about that. Because at the moment, Dark Universe feels like it needs something else. And I think they will get it. Expansion, in theory, should be relatively easy because there's land readily available and Universal already owns the Monsters property. So there's no outside company that they need to please or approve for attractions. Like Isle of Berk, you have to talk to DreamWorks. Nintendo, you got to talk to Nintendo. Harry Potter, Warner Brothers. So if they wanted to fast track something for Dark Universe, I bet they could. There's a lot of talk about a creature from the Black Lagoon boat ride, and I think that would be amazing. Do it Jaws style. You could even do it like mostly indoors to create like a really cool atmosphere, or put in one of those rocking boats from Mock Rides, like the one at Futuroscope. That could be really cool. This land in general has so much potential. And if you like walking around here during the day, be sure to also check it out at night. This is the land to see after dark, rightfully so. One of my favorite Easter eggs is that periodically, Frankenstein's Manor will just light up with electricity. It's like you're watching like a mini show. It's really cool. I just think at the moment they need a bit more because Frankenstein is awesome. Curse of the Werewolf is okay. They just need more to discover here. Now this brings us to our final portal of Epic Universe, and that is just across the way, the Ministry of Magic. This is the third Wizarding World here in Orlando after Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley at the other two parks. It just made sense to bring Harry Potter here, and they knocked it out of the park. Your portal entry is lined with wands with a huge column in the center, the Elder Wand up top. As you walk through, you'll hear this clicking effect. It's like you're walking back in time, and I think the premise here is because you're entering 1920s Wizarding Paris. So they have used the Time Turner and Metroflux to transport you to this realm. The land is called Ministry of Magic, but the main exterior of the land is Plaza Cachet, but no one knows what that is, so they just named it after the ride, which the Ministry of Magic is all indoors. We'll get to that in a second. You're first greeted with this massive arch. It is so impressive, a lot bigger than I was expecting, and the buildings within this land are huge. The Ministry of Magic section is all about scale. If you like how Diagon Alley feels, here is even better because they've made the pathways a bit wider so it doesn't get as congested, and you're still walking around with your mouth hanging open. Having been to Paris a couple times, I was shocked at how this really feels like an alternative version of Paris. The style is spot on. It is easily my favorite Paris in Orlando. They nailed the Wizarding World vibe. It actually complements Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley quite well. Because what happens is, at first you're like, oh, cool, Paris. But then you start looking in the windows of each of the individual shops, and you see all these references to the Fantastic Beasts in the Wizarding World, such as a Niffler stealing jewelry. The candy store has these candies, they're all different magical creatures. You might actually see some creatures from the movies sprinkled throughout the land, and everything feels lived in. They've aged it up. You would never know that this was opening year for this section. It feels like it's always been here. And as with every other portal, the character interactions just make it. There's multiple forms of entertainment, including an interactive portrait where they will talk with you. It's so cool. I've never seen anything like that before. We also noticed different musicians. There's the French wand maker out walking around telling everyone to go in her shop. There's two different restaurants. First up is Cafe Sirene, which is up on the left-hand side. It is beautiful. It is very European. Such a pristine location. I couldn't believe that this was in a theme park. I literally felt like I was back in Europe. And then the other is Goblet Noir, which feels very medieval. It's quiet and secluded. I imagine a lot of people don't even know it exists because the entrance is a little hidden, but it's extremely well themed. They have a lot of authentic food, things you wouldn't normally find at a theme park. I tried their schnitzel. I thought it was really good. I would order it again. There's also a bar on the right-hand side, and just across from it, a dead end that leads to nothing. There used to be another ride that was a part of this space that got canceled rather last minute. It was supposed to be a VR broomstick experience. I imagine they cut it because VR is kind of dead and people don't really like it anymore. But you can see where the entrance would be, so whenever they expand this land, which we know they will, they need another attraction here. I imagine this is where the entrance will go. My top choice would be another thrill coaster, because right now it's only Stardust. Something fundamentally different, like a Vekoma flying coaster, would be so cool. There you go, Universal. That's a lot better than a VR simulation, and you still get that flying experience. Speaking of attractions, this land is home to the second show in Epic Universe. It's called Le Cirque Arcanu. It's a circus show, but not everything is as it seems. You enter through a circus tent, which to no one's surprise is a lot bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside, and everything about it is extremely complex. This might be the most technologically advanced show I have ever seen, right up there with Bourne. And what's amazing about it is almost everything is out in front of you, practical effects. They did things that I have never seen done before. Like on Trainable Dragon, their showtime is about every 45 minutes and they close the line off about 15 minutes before start. Plan on seeing this when you come to Epic Universe. And finally, that brings us to Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. This is arguably the best ride in the park. Everything about this experience is jaw-dropping, starting first with the queue. On the left side of visiting Paris, you'll enter the Metro Flue. This will transport you to the British Ministry, and this is taken straight out of the films. I could not believe what I was seeing. It's hard to believe that this is a queue. It just feels so real. They use some really clever effects to make it look like the buildings just keep on going all the way back. They have the clouds that create that ceiling effect, and then if you look, there's actually a mirror at the top, so it appears like the buildings also just keep going vertically. Very, very clever. So the premise of this ride is that you're here to witness the trial of Dolores Umbridge. So she went into custody at the end of the 8th movie, and now she stands trial for her crimes. But of course, something goes wrong, and you are there to be a part of it. So as you walk through this queue, you'll see different scenes from the Ministry of Magic, including talking portraits, Umbridge's office, her house elf Higgledy, and then finally the loading zone where you're boarding your elevator that'll take you throughout the Ministry. This attraction uses a ride system that has never been done before. The best way I could describe it is think about the Spider-Man vehicles if they could also move vertically in the way that Tower of Terror does. They are manufactured by Simtech, a German-based company made famous for their big red car at Dreamworld Australia. And this vehicle is huge. You're essentially boarding from the second level because you have a huge hydraulic lift directly below you. It'll take you throughout the Ministry. It utilizes a lot of screens, but they are so crisp and high def. You don't need 3D glasses, but it still tricks your brain. I spent most of this ride questioning what was real and what was screen. They also had one of the smartest uses of a Kuka arm that I've ever seen before, where they put actual figures in those elevators on a Kuka arm to match your position. And then of course you have huge rooms like this that's very comparable to the AT-AT scene of Rise of the Resistance, where the scale is massive and you have animatronics that are incredibly fluid, so realistic that I thought they were actually live actors. Battle of the Ministry also has one of the biggest animatronics I've ever seen with this huge rhino creature. Absolutely insane. Easily one of the top dark rides in the world. I wouldn't blame anyone for saying this is their favorite. Just be prepared for the line. It is a very technologically advanced ride, so it does tend to have a lot of issues. When the ride is running at full capacity, it can actually do over 2,000 people per hour. More realistically though, it's probably somewhere around 1,600 to 1,800 people per hour, which is still pretty good. Just depends on how many ride vehicles they have on the track, because when this ride is temperamental and there's only a couple vehicles going, that line moves slowly. So be prepared. But there you go. Those are each of the lands within Epic Universe. As you can see, there is a lot here. After a full day of Epic from open to close, I did 22,000 steps. And I think one of the reasons for that is that you do a lot of double backing and crisscrossing at this park. Each of the portals are basically a dead end. You have one way in, one way out. That makes this a very different feel from a park like Islands of Adventure. There is a circle. You have to enter each land to get to where you're going. That is not the case here. You have to make an intentional decision to enter a portal. Celestial Park is your palate cleanser, and it's a perfect palate cleanser. But that makes this inherently a very different theme park experience than those with maybe a hub and spokes layout. This is like a hub and spokes, except you can't access the other portals from within a portal. And I was continually amazed at how some of the rides could have such long lines, and yet Celestial Park would feel quiet. The space is just so spread out that it doesn't feel clustered. If the park ever feels busy, it'll be when you're waiting in line for a ride. From my experience, Epic Universe was great with 13,000 people. We had 6,000 on opening day, and it felt deserted. We walked onto everything. When there's 20,000 people in the park, you definitely start to feel the crowds. One day, though, it could eventually hit capacity, which is 40,000 people. And I would not want to be at Epic Universe on that day. There are a lot of e-tickets here and not a lot of filler. They need more rides for capacity purposes. There are currently 11 rides in the park, and each ride serves a purpose, but so many of them I would consider A or B tier attractions. They are lacking the C and D tier rides, where you could comfortably wait 10 to 15 minutes for it, and it helps with capacity. Disney's Hollywood Studios, also in Orlando, has the same issue, where like everything is an e-ticket, so every line is really long. For an opening day roster of attractions, this is great. And it's clear that the teams at Creative are not done with Epic Universe. They've already explicitly said that they are working on the next phases of expansion, which hopefully they're able to get out soon because I can confidently say it will improve the guest experience. Right now, I believe there's enough to support one day at Epic Universe, and if you really want to see everything, you can do two. But it's important to have variety because inevitably, when certain attractions are down, you want to have something that the guests can still turn to enjoy. And I say that because, unfortunately, Epic Universe has only 4 covered rides: Monsters Unchained, Mario Kart, Constellation Carousel, and Battle at the Ministry. If you have spent any time in Florida in the summer, you know it rains every day. Intense thunderstorms. Lightning will shut everything down before it even touches ground. Islands of Adventure has a similar problem where they only have a couple attractions that are indoors. So I hope when they're considering adding new attractions, they consider some that are covered and can stay open during rain. That's very, very important. And at the moment, that is a big downside with Epic Universe. So I look forward to seeing how that changes because overall, this is a phenomenal park. One of my favorites I've ever been to. There's so much attention to detail. Things that you would never even notice, like fencing. What type of ground are you walking on? Is it cobblestone? Is it wood planks? What's in each of the buildings? Everything looks great on the outside, but then you step into every single room in this park, and it's just stunning. I said at the beginning that this park cost $7.7 billion, and I can absolutely see that. I know for a fact that Battle of the Ministry alone was the most expensive ride ever built. And after experiencing it, yeah, makes sense. So if there was any question of if you should plan a visit to Universal Epic Universe, the answer is without a doubt, yes. I was so wildly impressed by everything that they have to offer, and I can't wait to spend much more time here in the future. It truly is a world-class destination that is worth traveling to from wherever you may live. If you're a fan of theme parks, if you love these brands, these characters, if you just like a good roller coaster or a dark ride, Epic Universe has set a new bar, and Universal should be proud of themselves. For me, it exceeded all expectations, and any downside, any nitpick that I've brought up in this video, I can look past and forgive because I know that they will always continue trying to improve this place, do everything they can to keep this a world-class destination, and I can't wait to see what it looks like in another 20 years. So let me know down in the comments below if you have been to Universal Epic Universe, if you agree with the points that I brought up, if you think there is anything I missed, be sure to post that down below and stay tuned for more park reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.